Hello everyone, Neil Tappin here from Golf Monthly, and welcome to this video looking at the top 10 golf courses in the UK and Ireland. At Golf Monthly, we've just released our list of the top 100 courses in the UK and Ireland. And in this video, you're going to watch a conversation between myself, Mike Harris, Jezz Ellwood, and Rob Smith from Golf Monthly talking about specifically the top 10. Right, let's get started. I think the first talking point is, how do you rank a golf course? Because we've all been down this road before where you've gone to play somewhere, you've played really well, and it's just the best day you've ever had. And it suddenly goes in your top 10 list of golf courses. How are you able to kind of piece it together in a way that makes it fair for everybody? What's the process that Golf Monthly go through to rank a golf course?
We have a set of criteria that we've been using now for about 12, 14 years since the rankings first started. So we've got very specific things that we look for as a group that we think will be the things that will appeal to all golfers in general. And they are things like the quality of the design and the test itself. Then there's the conditioning. And then we move on to the visuals of the place where you are. And then there's more touchy-feely stuff like the clubhouse, the welcome, the whole experience.
I think how you play on the day is, you know, as golfers, golf's all about having fun. And I think you probably have more fun if you play well than if you don't play well. But obviously, as Rob's explained with that criteria, that there is, what we're not doing is we're not awarding marks for how well you played. So you do need to divorce that from when you're assessing a golf course. But I think it's looking to take as many variables out of the equation when we're ranking courses. Would that be fair, Jezz, do you think?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, I think if you think of weather, we all went to Old Head, didn't we, a few years ago as a team, and the weather could only be described as pretty horrific, but there were smiles on the faces all round when we came off the course despite that. So it is possible to take that out of the equation and assess something for what it is rather than what you wish it might have been on a better day.
So let's start by looking at our top 10 golf courses in the UK and Ireland, according to Golf Monthly, according to Golf Monthly's top 100 courses and the various different panelists that we have working on it. So, Rob, I'm going to start with you. Number 10 in the list is SUNNINGDALE New. Tell us about it.
Well, the question in my lucky role of writing about golf courses I get asked more than any is, if you could play anywhere, where would it be? My stock answer, without even thinking about it, which has not changed for a long time, is a day at Sunningdale. So you've got Sunningdale New and Sunningdale Old. The new, about 10 or 12 years ago, got promoted via the rankings just slightly above the old, which actually to the members at Sunningdale seemed to be to go down very well. They thought it's the tougher test of the two. But this time round, and if you're not happy, I'll deal with 10 and 9 together, really, because it's the two Sunningdales. The old has gone back over the new, and it's a very difficult call, this, because the old has old school charm and more quirkiness, whereas the new is a substantially tougher test, probably, of golf and shot making. But together they make the perfect day out. The new at 10, perhaps slightly just edged by the old this time, simply on the basis of the fact that more and more we seem to be thinking that we want to enjoy our golf, and perhaps the old certainly won't beat you up quite as much as the new. So I think at 10 we have new, and at number 9 at the old, which has gone up 2 places from 11. So they're both roughly where they were before, but with the old just pipping the new.
Like, that leads on to number 8 on the list, a golf course that many people watching and listening to this will be very familiar with. What is it?
It's Royal Portrush. There's not a lot of change in the top 10, and we don't sort of have huge ups and downs. It's not like the top 40 hit parade from share my age there from 20 years ago. I mean, Portrush was such a stunning setting for the 2019 Open Championship. Obviously hadn't been played there for a long time. I went back. I played it twice now. I went maybe once 20 years ago, and then once sort of 3 years ago. I went back with Kevin Murray, and we did a piece looking at the changes. Some significant changes went in the run up to the Open new holes. It is a spectacular golf course. It is very difficult. It is very, very difficult. There are no easy holes at Portrush, but it's a stunning setting there on the coast up in Northern Ireland. Some amazing views, and a great variety of holes. It keeps twisting and turning. So just a really great layout, and it is a fantastic links course.
Yeah, and I think anyone who watched Shane Lowry put his final round score together in some quite bleak weather conditions, and anyone who's played the golf course will know just how good that performance was at the Open. And that's the great thing about, I mean, just to interlude for a second, that's the great thing about the top 100 golf courses in the UK and Ireland. When they've had big tournaments on them, you're able to watch those tournaments, and you have literally trodden in the footsteps of these players in a way that other sports just don't let you do. You've played at one of the best golf courses in the world, Royal Portrush. You might have played it in brilliant conditions, you might have played it in terrible conditions, but it's probably something like they had at the Open on one of the 4 days. And you can really you've got a sort of almost a shared experience with the best players in the world. And number 7, Jezz, on the list, is another Open venue. Yeah,
I mean, if ever there was a course, ever there was a course that should be marked down because of how you played, Birkdale would be it for me. I drove up there 5 hours from Sussex, got out of the car, and started 797. It was obviously a decent phone number, but not a very good golf score. But what I love about Birkdale is the way that it you play through the valleys between the dunes almost the whole way round. So there are quite a number of holes where you can't see other holes. There are some exceptionally good par 3s, and there's a chance at the end with the par 5 17th, which obviously Harrington took full advantage of when he won the Open there. But it's just, for our older links courses, it's one of the ones with perhaps the taller dunes, which it really, rather than going over them and making it awkward, it just plays through the valleys between them almost from start to finish. It's just a fantastic golf course.
Now, one of the things, Jezz, you hear a lot about Birkdale is people say it's one of the fairest golf courses you can play. How are you able to kind of assess something like that? How can it be that much fairer than other golf courses on this list?
Well, I think you all see what's ahead. I don't think there's any blind holes, is there, other than maybe when you're taking on the corner on 17. So I think you can always see what you've got to do. It's then just a question of whether you've got the ability and the skill to do it in whatever conditions you're presented with on the day. So there's no hidden tricks. I mean, probably the toughest thing about it is the first hole, which kind of kinks both ways and is pretty long for your first blow of the day. But after that, you can see what's got to be done. Can you do it?
Jezz, you did make your 797 start sound perhaps passable, actually, as you were describing how difficult the start was. So moving on to number 6 on the list, Rob. One of those that people who've played it just always talk about it in such glowing terms. It's a fantastic golf course. One thing everybody always says about it is it has one of the hardest par 3s ever on it. And don't they say that the second shot into the second is the hardest shot in golf at Royal Dornoch, and it's a par 3, right?
Well, I think they do. I'll confess to Mike was talking about showing his age here. When I first played Royal Dornoch, the green fee was £10. I had family connections up there, so I played it probably 35 years ago and fell in love with it straight away. It is just an idyllic setting. If the weather behaves, it can absolutely kill you if the weather is bad, but it's the most beautiful place to play. And I noticed that 10 years or so ago, we had it way up to number 17 in the rankings. So it's actually, it's one of those that's now found its way back to the right sort of place. And it's just moved up slightly because, like many places, it's future-proofing too. So it has a new 7th hole designed by Tom Mackenzie. We mentioned Kenzie and Ebert recently, which has made the 7th hole far more dramatic, heading out with a view out to the sea behind. It's just a stunning place to play, and its remote setting makes it all the more magical, I would say.
And from my experience, I don't know if you felt the same thing. It's one of the most welcoming golf clubs. I mean, when you get there, you wouldn't necessarily think that it's this place that has this amazing reputation that can sort of, I don't know, it just feels so inclusive and somewhere that anyone can go and enjoy.
Well, I'd say it's clearly ahead of its time, because in the days when I used to first play it, travelling up to the north, I used to see players playing in jeans, playing in 5 balls, and it's a remarkably relaxed and friendly place. Yes, it is. It has no reason not to be. It's just It's about the golf. It's nothing about the stuffiness or anything else. It's just a superb place to go, a lovely place to stay, and there's some other beautiful courses in the area as well. So it's just a wonderful place.
Okay, moving on to number 5, Mike. Great golf course, another open golf course. What is it?
It's Carnoustie. It's a championship course at Carnoustie. I know I said Portrush was difficult. Carnoustie is even more difficult. I just think it's a supreme test of golf. But I do think it's playable by all levels. There are no really big intimidating carries. And I think it's probably the best example of easy bogey, hard par in the top 10. And by that, I mean, it's not, if you start mucking around with the Barry Burn, you're going to get into trouble. or the out of bounds, the borders, Hogan's Alley, you'll get, you'll be racking up big numbers. It's in fantastic condition always. And what I love about, I know we've got 2 courses that fit this billing in the top 10. It is effectively, it's a municipal golf course. You can be a member there, but it really is open access. They're very forward thinking in their sort of opening up for tee bookings. It's so inclusive. They've got some lots of great junior programs, lots of great community programs there. But it's a seriously tough test to go. I think the better the golfer you are, the harder the test is. But it's it's really, really impressive. Great golf course.
And a great halfway hut.
Oh, yeah. I mean, obviously, Tappers, we went up there and did some filming before the 2018 Open. And a key part of that filming was trying all the things in the halfway hut, which were some amazing pies and pastries, all sorts of stuff that probably not great for the waistline, but good for the soul for sure.
Yeah, and actually a quick shout out to the halfway hut Sunningdale as well, because
yeah,
I think it'd be remiss not to mention that one. So, Jezz, moving on to number 4 on the list, and just an absolute belter of a golf course that was always a brilliant golf course that got made significantly better. Is that a fair comment?
I think that's a very fair comment. And if you're talking about halfway huts, they don't come better than Turnberry's in the base of the lighthouse there, where you can actually stay the night for several £1,000s if you want to. But it was before the previous rankings that Turnberry was overhauled under Mr. Trump's ownership and Martin Ebert's guidance. And what they did was strengthen some of the holes that some of which a lot of people already thought quite strong, the ones right on the coast. But the old 9th hole was a sort of slightly blind par 4 with a funny convex fairway that threw your ball off. And what they've done now is put in a fantastic par 3 with the green right beside the lighthouse. And if you go off the very back tees, you're basically getting over the shoreline 250 yards to the green. That and a lot of other changes as well have really strengthened the golf course. So that last time it rose to our top spot because of those changes. Probably the most spectacular setting of the courses on the open road. I don't think many would disagree with that. Maybe Portrush, where the 5th hole is above the shore, there is in a similar vein. But in terms of being right on the shoreline, Turnberry has it more than any other open road course.
And probably a great example of what you were talking about how a golf course can already be brilliant and make itself even better. Because I don't think I've spoken to a lot of people now who've played it since the changes were made, and I don't think I've spoken to a single person who hasn't said, "Yeah, it's better." And you wouldn't, and you always would have thought going into that project, the thing you've got to guard against here is making it worse, and they haven't. So.
Yeah, well, it's that risk, isn't it, of drawing a moustache on a Mona Lisa? You don't want to risk that, do you? You've got to. But yeah, I think it's obviously Trump was very bold in what he wanted to do. He wasn't, pulling any punches in a way that some other courses maybe would have thought, oh no, we can't do that because we're already up there. Why would we want to, potentially upset the apple cart? He just went in and did it and got the most incredible reaction. Okay,
so moving on, number 3. A fantastic Scottish golf course, Rob. Muirfield.
Muirfield, yes, it's frequently been our number one course. It is a supreme test of links golf. It's hosted many opens and produced some great champions. They've done some changes since last time, but mainly to the clubhouse extension, and more in the way of showing off the history inside. So it stays at number 3, which I think is fair. But to be honest, when you get to these lofty heights, it's very difficult to pick between these wonderful open venues that we're talking about.
Muirfield always, when I watch the Open, it always strikes me as being a really difficult test of golf. I guess they're all really difficult tests of golf, as you say, at this point. But a lot of people talk about it from an architectural standpoint, a kind of how the golf course is laid out and put together, that it's just almost a perfect test of golf. Is that a fair comment, Rob?
I think you would say so, because the feedback from the golfers themselves says so, from good golfers. Its difficulty will be defined by the wind and how much they bring the rough in, I think, to a large degree. But actually, once you get to the greens, it's just the subtle runoffs, the mounding around the bunkers and so on is so sublime. It's just the perfect sort of evolution of a cult course from many years ago that's kept all his design ethos, but has moved with the times, but without losing its history. It's a perfect blend of the old and new, I think, in many ways.
Well said. Mike, so question for you. Number 2 on our list is the old course at St Andrews. How on earth can the old course at St Andrews not be number 1?
Because there's one course that we rank above it. It's as a golf experience, I think it is, in my opinion, it's unmatched. To be walking the fairways that everybody from Old Tom to Jack Nicklaus to Tiger Woods, anybody who's played the game of golf has walked those fairways, has probably felt the thrill of standing on the first tee and hitting down a super inviting fairway, and then the course heads out. There are lots of subtle sort of nuances that you can play. I mean, Tabbers, you were at university at St Andrews, you play the course a lot of times. You'll know that there are things that you find out even after playing the course 30, 40, 50 times. There's bunkers you'll end up in, you think, I don't remember that being there. And it's whichever way you play it, that there are so many subtleties about it. There are so many thrills. There, I think, again, it is playable by everybody. Like Carnoustie, there are no big carries there. You can get it in play. You can hit it left all day long and not get into a lot of trouble. But coming back into town, once you make that turn around the loop, and I think those holes around the loop are just out on the estuary are fantastic. Once you start to make that turn for home, and it's just everything's recognisable. You're playing back into the town of St Andrews. There's just a great run of holes. 17, probably the hardest hole in the world. You've got to take that really aggressive line over the railway sheds, and even if you've hit a great drive, you've not even done half the job there. And then playing up 18, which is not a long hole. And in if you're a big hitter, and then if the wind's at your back and the fairways are firm, you could get it towards the front edge. You tappers have probably knocked it on in your time. But playing into the home hole at St Andrews, with the Hamilton ground behind, with the RNA clubhouse there, probably with people behind, watching you play in. It's just a magical experience, and it's a great. This is not just sort of heart over head. It is a great golf course. There are so many clever design features there. It is just, I think, the best experience in our top 100.
Yeah, and I would say for that last point, Mike, that from my experience, that the more I played it, the better the golf course got. Yeah. It was one of those that you start to really appreciate. Well, I did. I mean, other people might appreciate it from the first moment they play it. I started to appreciate the nuance of how tricky it was to put a great score together. Yeah. I always felt that it was fairly straightforward to put an acceptable score together, and I could do that. But what I wasn't able to do is put together a really good score. And actually, that's where it's quite a nuanced golf course, and it is a great golf course. Anyway, I feel like I'm padding out time here because we've got to our number one slots. Jezz, the honour befalls on you to tell us what came out as number one on our list of top 100 golf courses in the UK and Ireland.
Yes, it's the first time we've got Royal County Down's championship course or old course. I can't remember what it's called. Championship, is it? Championship, yes. Same sort of thing, really. It's people have often said, why is that not number one? A lot of people, even in world lists, sometimes have County Down at number one. And it's a fantastic place to play golf. It's probably the most magical setting of all the old links, with the mountains in the background, sea on your right as you head out, lots of little quirks and a few blind shots. Some people aren't so keen on the blind shots, but I think one of the things that has maybe just pushed it over the edge this time, and don't forget we're splitting hairs here in this upper, top 10%. They're all so closely matched. It can just be one little thing that maybe tips the balance in favour of one over another. And they've put a few new tees in, a little bit of bunkering work. They've taken a ridge down that has allowed a bit more visibility on the second hole, and perhaps critical for many, they've taken the pond out that was on the 17th fairway, which many people found a little bit incongruous for an old traditional links. Although I believe it was always there, a lot of people just felt it wasn't quite what they were expecting to see on a links fairway coming down the stretch. Well, I'm told that is no longer there. I've not seen it for myself yet, but the pond has gone, and I believe they're still pondering exactly what will go in its place there. But
pardon the pun.
Yeah, but it's just a fantastic place to play golf. It's again, you're sort of this time twice you're playing back towards the town and those recognisable buildings on the skyline and the mountains beyond. It's got everything really, and I guess that's why it's now number one for us this time round.
And Rob and Mike, do you want to add a few of your experiences of Royal County Down?
But it's the setting more than anything, isn't it? I mentioned earlier that for me, it's what you look at in front of you on the hole, and then what you look at around you. Well, County Down absolutely has it, hasn't it? The mountains of Mourne and the sea. It's just the most sublime setting. Even for me, it'd be impossible to take a bad photograph. It's just a beautiful looking place, and I would recommend it to anybody. But perhaps try it when the wind is down, though.
Yeah, I've played it a few times. Don't think the wind's ever been up, but I've always scored very poorly around there. I think the first time I played it, I doubt I kept it inside three figures, and maybe I would think sort of high 80s, and I play off 9. High 80s is probably the best I've ever shot around there. It's not diminished my enjoyment of it. It's a difficult golf course for sure. But yeah, as Rob said, the views are incredible. Whichever way, wherever you stand, there are some amazing vantage points. But equally, some of the holes that sort of play in and out of the dunes, where you don't, you're playing away from the mountains of Mourne, are great. There's a lot of variety there, always in fantastic condition, and a really, really warm welcome. They've got a great setup for visitors. You're welcome with open arms. I think as we've said, perhaps the top 4, I would say, in our top 10 are almost interchangeable, and maybe on a different day with a different sort of outlook, or the wind blowing metaphorically, a different way, we might have come up with a different 1 to 4, but they're all I think all the top 4 you wouldn't really raise an eyebrow if either of them was at number 1. But I'm pleased County Down has made it to number 1 this time. As Rob said, it makes number 1 on a number of the world lists. So I don't think we're out of kilter by putting it at number 1 this time. But yeah, some great courses in the top 10. They're all links, of course, and I think that's something which is always a talking point, but there are a lot of great inland courses as well in that top 100.
Yes, and so for anyone interested, you can find the list of top 100 golf courses in the UK and Ireland on the Golf Monthly website. Better still, pick up a copy of the May issue of Golf Monthly, where you will not only find that list, but you'll also find all of the writing that the guys have put together about it, where you go into more detail about a lot more courses, a lot more areas. And hopefully, I know a lot of people currently stuck in lockdown or in just not in a massively enjoyable place, that this is a great combination of inspiration for the future and a bit of escapism, hopefully, you know, triggering some kind of excitement in one of the main hobbies that you've got an interest in. I always find it one of the most enjoyable things to do, and I'm not the only one to sit there every year, even though I mean every year I'll sit there and I'll tick off the ones I've played. Well, that's it. Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. That's our discussion that concludes our bet on the top 100 golf courses in the UK and Ireland. If you have any comments, please send them through to us. Leave comments below. Let us know which golf courses you think should have been included. I'm sure Jezz and Rob aren't sick to the sight of the idea of people saying, what about our golf course? What about our golf course? It's a very difficult job to put together a top 100 list. But hopefully, if you see it, you'll be able to see the work that's gone into it. And there are some truly inspirational golf courses on there. So that's it for now. Thanks very much for watching. We'll see you next time.